Well, welcome back to Crowley House Flower Farm. Today I thought I would just go in depth a little bit on our sweet peas that we're growing, and starting for our outdoor production. We've already put in our sweet peas inside the tunnel. We started those last fall. So I thought I would just go dive into what we do here on our farm with our sweet peas and which varieties we are growing. The other thing I'm going to show you is one of my favorite quick go-to snacks here on the farm when I'm working long hours and I just need a quick pick-me-up. So I'm gonna go through and show you what kind of granola that I make. I usually just top it with some homemade yogurt, or sometimes I buy the store-bought depending on how much time I have. And so I thought I would take you along and share that recipe with you so that you can get some made and stored up for when you're working really hard out in the garden or on a farm like I do. And you know, it's just quick and easy. So I thought I'd share that with you today. So let's dive into the sweet peas. Today I thought I would take you through some of the sweet peas that I'm growing and kind of some of my ideas for the sweet peas this year. I order my sweet peas generally at the end of summer, first of fall, just to make sure that I do get all my sweet peas. And there's several different places that I order from. One is from Owl's Acres in England, but the caution there is that you can get it taken away at the border. So technically we're not supposed to, order outside of the United States. Some companies you're able to do stuff like that and others not. And I've never had a problem before this year when they got taken, and it was a pretty hefty order. So I generally try and do my orders into like little chunks if I do that. Anyways, that being said, I had ordered this from Enchanted Sweet Peas, which I love this company. I've ordered from them for over 10 years, and they always have really good quality sweet peas, and they're just in California. So shipping is, $4.95, literally. Okay, so I just thought I would kind of go through a couple of the sweet peas we're gonna grow this year and talk about a few different ones and why I like them. Hopefully it will help you. If you haven't ordered sweet peas, it's not too late. Generally here in the Pacific Northwest, we're zone 8B. We will have, we don't generally plant our sweet peas for outside until about February 14th. So you have some time to order some seeds. The other thing is that if you were doing them in a hoop house like I've got going, I plant them at the end of summer and into fall, and they're going and cranking already. They're not actually blooming or anything. They're just up a ways. And just depending on our weather and light and all that kind of stuff, they do really well for us in there. But anyways, these are the ones that I'm going to be growing outside. So like I said, if you need to order, you have time. We have a ton of sunshine here in the Northwest, and it has been super cold. I think it was 21 degrees this morning. And I know for some people you're just laughing at me because I have two sisters that live up towards Ontario, Canada, so I know. But here is, and this is why I love Enchanted Sweet Peas. This is a handwritten note of all of the seeds that I got. I don't know, it's all in cursive. It's really cool. And I've talked about this before. So anyways, let's go into this. I always get like a mix of sweet peas. So the reason I do that is these ones I generally will plant up into, and then put them into pots, like so that they grow up high and beautiful. And so this is just, I just want a smattering of colors. These are all just beautiful colors. So it's more of the colors that I like, which are more the purples, the blues, the kind of cool colors. So that's kind of what we've got there. And then this is the pack that we're growing on in the garden. Now, one thing about sweet peas is you have to be a little careful with wind, the structure that you put them on. You've seen in other videos that we've done, we now use the cattle panels, and that works really, really well. But if you have high wind, that would be a great thing to do. You can also do the netting, and we found some really cool netting. I'll have to ask Jason where he got it, but sometimes the netting can be the white netting, and I think he found green one time, and we've used that, and it worked really well. And what I loved about it, you couldn't really see it. So I'm kind of weird about like things looking really pretty. Okay, we got William and Catherine, which is like a salmon pink color. April in Paris, which is Beautiful, kind of creamy with a lavender tipping on it. Heaven Scent, a light peach color. Molly Realstone, and this one is a cream with a rose tip to it. Just Jenny is one that we've grown a lot, and this is a dark purple. That one always does really well for weddings. Ethel Grace is kind of a lavender color. Again, really well for weddings. So most of these we sell wholesale, and then or use in our own weddings. Charlie's Angel, which is a periwinkle blue, which is my favorite. Polar Star, which is another, just a white. Again, for weddings, white, I can never grow enough white. So we got a whole bunch of those. And what else did we get? Okay, so those are the main colors we grow here on the farm. Is it's kind of like a creamy white with the like pale lavender edging to it. We grow a cream, we grow a white, we grow a lavender, and then a deep purple. And then I'll have the smattering, like this is just the mixture. But partly because when I grow, I should take that back. I grew kind of this like red, kind of bright, I think I have like the salmon pink last year did really well for us. But then I grew one that was almost, I gotta figure out what it is, but it was a little bit deeper than that. And we had one person order all of them, and it was great. They kept ordering them. Must have loved them, but they were more of a red color. So I did get a nice surprise from a friend. This one is called King Ransom. And so I've got, I think, 40 seeds of this. This again came from across the pond. And I know of a few people here growing it, but it's something that we have a hard time getting. So I'm super excited about this. So I'm gonna be being really careful about how I plant this. Now, there are a few things about sweet peas. They, sometimes if you plant them outside and say you have a little hoop house or something, a little greenhouse sheltered area that you're gonna do all your seeding in, and even in my studio, sometimes I do all the seeding in it, the mice, you know, this time of year, the mice will get in if it's not super secure, and they will eat all your beautiful sweet peas. And bye-bye. Or they'll dig up the seed. I don't know if you guys have had that, but even when I'm seeding like peas for the garden, like edible peas, they come in there and they dig it up. Or birds, I've had birds do it. I've had to net them. What I do to ensure that I'm not gonna have that problem is I take all my seeds and I put them into little mason jars. These are the little tiny like jelly jars, and I let them soak for a while. You can also do the paper towel method where you put them in the paper towel and on a plate and let them kind of soak in all the water, and they'll germinate that way. I just let them soak for a couple hours in my little, till they kind of plump up a little bit. And then I put them straight into a 72 cell tray, partly because I plant them out fairly soon before that taproot gets going. So that's the other thing about sweet peas. They don't really like their taproot disturbed at all. So if you accidentally leave them in for too long, pull them out super gently out of the tray. Be really careful with them, and you'll be fine. I know that they're really sensitive. So sweet peas will grow pretty much anywhere. They do need some sort of support. In our tunnel, we use the cattle panels, and outside we just don't have it. Well, I do have some cattle panels. I kind of had this like arching, beautiful space that we kind of did a sweet pea tunnel. It turned out amazing. But what you want to do, if you're growing them either in a container or outside, a lot of times we dig a trench and it needs to be at least 10 inches deep. And I add lots of compost and kind of work the soil because we have heavy clay. And I put some fertilizer down in there, just an organic fertilizer. And then we cover that trench back up. And then we plant our sweet pea starts in there, because sweet peas have a long tap root and they don't really like to be disturbed too much with that tap root. So using like a 50 cell tray to pre-sprout them in, or something that's like a root trainer that's got a little depth to it, works really, really well. I've always used the 50 cell tray just because we start so many sweet peas that just makes sense to me. But if you had like a small garden or just starting a few seeds, then, you know, by all means do it the right way. That being said, I've never had a problem with my 50 cell trays causing my sweet peas to die. So I've actually done them in a 72 cell and they've been completely fine. So that's another thing, science experiment, just do what you have on hand, you know, because when I first started, I like had no money for all the fancy things. And so I just had to use what I had and it worked. And that's how I know this. So we generally like to start our sweet peas where it's a little bit cooler. Caution to that. So sometimes I start I have been known to start it in our big hoop house. But if you have birds that can get in, or say rodents can get in, they will eat your seed and you will lose your crop. I have had that happen before, and it happens every once in a while still. You'll have that happen even with like peas, like snow peas and things like that for the garden where you're eating them. I don't know if, maybe it's just me, they just target me, but let me know in the comments below if you've struggled with that, because it's so frustrating. Have a little mouse come through and eat the seed or eat the top. Ugh, it's so frustrating because seeds are expensive, especially sweet pea seeds, I find. So what you want to do is make sure you start it in a cooler space. One of our rooms in the house is kept pretty cold, and so I just start them in there so I can get them to the stage where the birds and things won't eat them, and that's worked pretty well for me. You want to transplant them out 6 to 12 weeks after you've started them. So to keep your sweet peas fed, we do the fertilizer down in the trench, and then we plant our sweet peas, and then I just kind of let them get established a little bit, let their roots kind of grow out. And then we have a compost tea maker, but when I first started I didn't have that, so I would make like a compost tea in a bucket, and then I would just put it in a backpack sprayer and spray it out. Now that we have the compost tea sprayer, we use that quite a bit, and that also aids in with pests. So aphids really like sweet peas, and you kind of have to stay on top of that, and it's hard to see, especially when the vines get growing really big and tall, and it's just like flowers everywhere, and you're just like lost in this beauty, and you just don't see them because they are green as well, for the most part, on sweet peas. So be looking down on the ground. I tend to like clean the ground quite a bit, so that there's not all those, you'll understand, like there's just stuff, right? This especially growing in the greenhouse. And so I kind of keep the ground clean. I sweep underneath there. And I'm always checking the sweet peas. This is the good time when you're walking around the farm or your garden with your glass of wine. Be looking for things like that, because if you catch those problems small, then it's not really a problem. You can tackle it right away. And that tea compost does really well in combating some of those problems and kind of keeping them at bay. So just a little tidbit there. Okay, so sweet peas are something what we call is a cut and come again flower for us. And the more you cut, the more blooms you get, and they just keep coming and coming and coming. And sometimes you're just like, I cannot keep up. If you're just growing a small amount, don't be afraid to cut those, you know, just get in there. Beautiful cuts for the home, and just fill vases, because they're going to keep going and going and going. And I find that I get more and more blooms when you cut. It's kind of like roses are like that as well. So you'll notice that your first blooms that come on a sweet pea, the stems can be really long, especially if you do that trick where you're adding in that trench with the good compost and all your fertilizer. Then you're in these huge, I mean, our sweet peas get, I don't even know how tall, but huge. I'll show you some pictures here. But we have to get a ladder out in order to reach them. And sometimes even that, it's a little bit teetering on the edge of the ladder kind of thing. So I'm hoping this year I don't grow them that tall, actually. We did just an amazing job last year. Like I said, every year is different. No matter if you think you can grow it, you're not going to be able to grow it. And then one year, and then the next year, you're going to grow it fantastically. But what you're going to want to do is, after you've been picking for a while, all of a sudden you'll notice that your stems are getting super short, which is fine for a home gardener. But for someone like me that needs it for a bridal bouquet or needs it to sell off to a wholesaler, then adding just a little bit of blood meal just down at the base. And this is a little bit tricky just because, like when I'm growing in the tunnel, we're growing it under fabric. And if you're not growing it in fabric, then yay to you. You can just get right in there and do your thing. But I'm growing mine in weed mat, and so you can add a little bit of blood meal down at the base, And what I've done in the past is kind of added the blood meal to my tea compost. And instead of using a backpack sprayer, I'll just go along the ledge with my bucket and just, you know, along where all the little holes are, and it just soaks in. And then I give another just hand hosed watering down there as well. And this is a good time for you to be checking for bugs as well, because aphids do carry some diseases and stuff, so you kind of do want to be careful. And especially if you try and grow as organically as possible, then this is a good check time. Put it on your calendar. You know, we're going to check these every week. It's just a good thing to do. So if you are growing these in a container pot, you definitely want to make sure that the pot is at least 12 inches deep. I like to get those huge terracotta pots with a little obelisk in it, a little tower of some sort, and then plant some sweet peas under there. And they just, what they'll need is probably some fertilizer every 6 weeks or so. And it's just, you know, you're probably fertilizing other things, so just add it into your routine. And I tell you guys, sweet peas are one of those flowers. I mean, there is a few on the list, and if you know of another one or one that kind of stops you in your tracks, sweet peas are like that. So sweet peas have this amazing ruffle, this amazing smell, and they just ramble, and they have these just beautiful tendrils. Even the tendrils that come off are just like kind of corkscrewy, and the shade of the leaf is just, you know, it's that limey light green, so very fresh, and it just reminds me of spring. I think a lot of people, you know, it reminds them of something really good, because that's a flower that literally people will be on the farm and they're like, oh my god, I'm just here to see the sweet peas. In the summertime, the sweet pea smell from the high tunnel all the way to the house, it just lofts in the air, like amazing, beautiful smell. But people are just stopped in their tracks because of this beautiful flower. There's only a few other flowers that do that, which one is the garden rose, and two is a peony, and then I find that the sweet pea is right up there with those three flowers. You know, you have your ranunculus and anemones and all the other things as well that people kind of gush over, but the sweet pea, there's something different about it. And I'm sure you're going to tell me a story about sweet peas down in the comments, because I would love to hear it. Sweet peas are one of my favorite things to grow. One of the first things I grew here on the farm. Totally failed at that the first time I grew them, but you know, that's one of those try and try again, and you will succeed. And you'll learn, and you kind of figure out what works best for your ground and soil and your lifestyle, basically. Well, I'm excited to get planting and get these outdoor sweet peas in the ground on a trellis somehow. I'm not sure where I'm going to put them yet. I will figure that out. This next week's video, I'm going to show you our new garden space, and I've got to kind of lay out everything, so I'll probably do that on paper and then show you that as well. But I'm excited to get these King Ransoms in the ground and all of my other seeds from Enchanted Sweet Peas. So, love that company. Check them out. The other places you can find sweet peas are some of the others, like Johnny's Seed Company has some. There's a lot of small growers now, farmers that grow them. I think Florette has some. I don't know if she still does. She's a pretty small grower for seed, but check them out. That's pretty cool. And supporting small and local, and that's why I like that Enchanted Sweet Peas, because they do. I love that handwritten note. I've said that before, but I just get giddy about it because it's so cool. So we are out of our granola, and so today I thought I would take you along as I make my favorite recipe and share with you some of the variations of it, because I got this from a friend of mine who's a flower farmer as well, and it's been a staple in our home for now at least a year, and I have fallen in love, so I thought I would share it with you. So today I'm going to making a super chunky coconut granola. This is one of my favorites. I love it early in the morning with just topped on top of my yogurt, and it's just a special treat. What's really cool about this is you kind of clean out your pantry of anything that might have extra on hand, and it just kind of works with, as long as you have some oats and a few other things that you can kind of mix and match, and it always is changing, so it keeps it nice and fresh. So we have 3 cups
of rolled oats. I like to use Bob bread mill. I like the extra thick oats, and that works really well, but I've been known to use just the regulars, whatever you have on hand. 1 cup of coconut flakes. I like the large flakes. 1 cup of raw almonds. And then to that, I just add 1 more cup of whatever nut I have on hand. I've used pecans. Today I'm using walnuts. Just kind of using up what I have. I've been known to use filberts as well. To that, I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of maple sugar. It's dried. I get this as your standard. I'm going to add in 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. I'm using Redmond's. The kitchen smells like a beeswax candle, and it's just beautiful along with the orange zest that we added in. I'm going to take 6 tablespoons of coconut oil and 2/3 cup of honey. In my case, I didn't have any maple syrup. The original recipe calls for maple syrup, but all I have is honey. And the honey I have has been crystallized, so now I have to gently bring it back to a warmth that is going to dissolve those crystals so that I can use it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the stove and get that going. So now I'm going to add that into the mixture along with some vanilla. This vanilla is really, really good. It came from a friend of ours down in Mexico, and I love it. It smells so good. And then we're going to add in lastly some fruit. Now I have some dried cherries on hand. You could add in dried apples, cranberries, raisins, dried blueberries are amazing. It's just kind of whatever you have on hand. So about 1/2 cup. So the other day I made this recipe and I used some cranberries and I used the orange zest. And I didn't have any cranberries on hand, so I'm just using the cherries, but I loved how that just little bit of orange came through on the taste on this, coupled with the yogurt. Oh my gosh, it was delicious. So I've heated my oven up to 325, and I'm gonna take my very well-loved pan here that I'm going to put my granola in, and I'm just taking a little bit of this coconut oil and kind of rubbing it around because this has some sugar in it and it sometimes will stick to the bottom, which is not horrible, but I just like to give it a little bit of a kind of once around. Okay. I'm gonna take my granola and just lay it in. It looks beautiful. Oh, this smells amazing. Oh. It's starting to brown up beautifully, so I'm just gonna stick it in for a few more minutes. You can really smell that orange and those cherries. Ooh, that's hot. I'm just gonna do 5 minutes more. But I'm gonna have to watch it close. Look at that, you guys. Does not look delicious? Way better than the store-bought, for sure. So I'm just gonna give this a quick little stir. It's nice and golden brown. And I'm gonna let it kind of cool and just kind of give it a stir every once in a while. And then we'll get it into its jar and on the counter. I just keep this on the counter, just close by, because it is one of those snacks that I love. Just even grabbing a handful sometimes when I come in off the farm is really nice. Just a quick little fix me up if I'm starving, and then that way I don't overeat. So I'm just letting it cool. It's coming along nicely. I think it's cold enough now that I can try a little bit. It's still pretty warm.
Anyways, until next time, much success in all you do and grow, and we'll be seeing you shortly back here at Crowley House very soon. Bye-bye.